In today's video, I'm going to share with you guys 5 secrets to choosing the perfect concealed carry holster and belt setup for your body type and your situation. In addition to that, we're also going to be covering some of my favorite holsters and belts as of today, because over the years, new products come out and my tastes tend to change a little bit. And then we're going to go over how to make your current EDC setup not only conceal better, but be more comfortable on you without having to buy anything new. And then we're going to cover some of the biggest mistakes that I've made over the years so that you don't have to make them. Now, before we get to secret number 1, we need to quickly go over the different types of holsters and carry positions. The first type of holster, these are going to be your soft holsters, and these are either going to be made out of leather or of some other type of material. Then we have Kydex holsters, which are hard on both sides. Then we have hybrids, which are soft on one side, Kydex on the other. And then we have belly band style. And these come in a lot of different shapes and forms. Some of them are very soft, and then some of them are kind of hybrid, having a hard shell on them. And then with all of those types of holsters, there's typically 2 to 3 types of carry positions. You have appendix carry, where you can carry right in the front of you. Then you have strong side, and then you have strong side like 430 position. In each of those types of holsters and each of those types of carry positions come with their own pros and cons, which brings us to secret number 1. Your holster, regardless of the one you use from the list that I mentioned earlier, needs to accomplish and balance 5 different things: safety, comfort, concealability, accessibility, and pistol attachments. For safety, we're talking about it needs to protect the trigger, and it needs to retain the pistol. That way your pistol doesn't fall out of the holster. And for attachments, we're specifically referring to whether your gun has a threaded barrel or some kind of compensator, a light, and or a red dot sight. And here's the thing, depending on which holster type you choose, not every single one of those can balance those 5 things in the same ratio. For example, a belly band style holster would rate very high on concealability and comfort, but would score very low on accessibility. And when I'm talking about accessibility, I'm talking about 1, how fast you can get to your gun, and 2, how fast you can draw your gun. And because it has a retention strap, it means not only do you got to clear the garment to get to the gun, but then you got to undo the strap and then draw the gun so that you can get to work defending yourself. And then on the other side of the coin, Kydex holsters, depending on your body type, they might rate super high on safety, concealability, and accessibility and attachments, but might rank very low on comfort, depending on who you are. And that's just one of many of other examples. And so whenever you're looking at a holster, you want to think of those 5 things. What does it do well, and what could it possibly not do well? And that's going to bring us to secret number 2, the 5 things that I look for in any holster to make sure that it can balance those 5 things very well, at least for my body type and my carry situation. Oh, quick question. If you guys could do me a huge favor, I was checking out my analytics the other day and I noticed that almost 63% of you that are watching these videos aren't subscribed. If you guys could do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button, I greatly appreciate it. Reason I ask is whenever you hit the subscribe button on any particular video, it helps these videos get boosted and trending in the algorithm. Also, liking and commenting helps too. And the reason that's important is whenever these metrics are super high on a video, it helps us reach an audience that's never been exposed to 2A content before. And ultimately, I think that's good for everybody because we can get more people onto our side of the 2A conversation. Before we get too deep into this, guys, I want to let you guys know something. I will have a parts list available for absolutely everything that we're talking about in today's video. And I do have something over there for Tier 1 Concealed that rhymes with the word chromo pode. I don't think anybody else has a chromo pode for Tier 1 Concealed. And so that'll be over at the parts list for you. Best way to find that is first link in the description. I'll pin it in the comments. And if you're watching this on your television, I'll throw a QR code up so you can simply pause the video, scan the code, and then you can scroll the parts list while you're watching the video. So these 5 things that I look for in a holster don't just apply to appendix carry holsters. These can also apply to the hybrid style holsters as well. So the first thing that your holster needs to be able to do is it needs to be able to protect this trigger. As you can see, this gun doesn't have a manual safety. The only safety on this gun is not pulling the trigger, and then the internal safeties that are built into the gun. Whenever you place this into your holster, you want to make sure that nothing is going to get into that trigger guard, because if it was sticking out a little bit, say it didn't have good fitment right there, you know, something could get in there and possibly pull that trigger. Who knows what could get in there, but you know, drawstrings, anything. I've heard of that happening to people. So that's number one thing that's important. The holster is now your safety in regards to the trigger. The second thing that I look for in any holster is gonna be concealment wings. Now, there are various styles and a lot of different companies do produce these, not just Tier 1. And the way these work is whenever your belt is on, the concealment wing pushes against your belt right here and pushes the grip of the gun further into your abdomen so that it conceals a lot better. Now you'll notice on this one, you only have a concealment wing on this side, but over here on the mag carrier, you have a built-in concealment wing that's kind of molded into the Kydex. This one over here, this is their APX style holster. This one's a little bit different because not only does it have these stackable pancakes on this side, similar to that one where you can adjust how much this sticks out, but they also have one on the other side as well. And in this one, you can adjust the mag carrier to sit at any cant or any height that you want. You have a lot more adjustability with this one. And those two things alone, number one, allow you to conceal the gun much better, and they allow you to make the gun a lot more comfortable. Now, the next thing that I personally prefer on any holster is gonna be these mag carriers of any kind. I personally like a holster that has 2 clips and the mag carrier. The reason that I like this is when you have the mag carrier, yeah, you get a backup mag, which is cool, but it balances the gun on your belt so it doesn't fall one way or the other. You don't have a weird bulge sticking out of one side of your pants. It simply allows it to fit and feel. I don't know how to explain it. You just have to try it if you never have. I'm sure those of you that have tried a holster without the mag carrier versus with, you guys can let everybody in the comments know what the difference is. But I don't want just a mag carrier. And the reason that is a few years ago, I got this holster. I forgot the company that sent it to me, but it is an appendix rig. And it does have the concealment wing on one side, and it is very comfortable. But if you notice, it's not very flexible. And so not only do I want a concealment wing, but I also want it to be flexible so it moves with my body as I'm bending and stooping. And because of this, you are able to adjust the ride height on here. This one, it's a little bit easier to adjust the ride height, but you can do it on both. The next thing that's very important for holsters for me is they need to be able to accept attachments. Let's say you like to carry a gun that has a red dot, a weapon light, and or carry a gun that has a threaded barrel or a compensator. I want my holster to be able to accommodate all of those things. And because I use all of those accessories, it eliminates the majority of the holsters that we mentioned earlier when it comes to hybrid style holsters or some of the belly band style holsters. We'll go into more detail about that in a little bit, but not all Kydex holsters are created equal either. Good example of that is this one. This one's also from Tier 1, but you'll notice that the bottom of this is closed. And because the bottom of this is closed, if I ever decided to put a comp or a threaded barrel on my P365 X Macro, it wouldn't fit in this holster unless I cut that out with a Dremel. Whereas if you look at these holsters, these two are completely open at the bottom. And what's cool about that, even though I ordered these for a Glock 19 with a threaded barrel or a comp, but because it fits that, it will also fit a Glock 17 style just perfect. And so you're able to have one holster for multiple size handguns, at least for the Glocks. I don't know how it works for everything else, but that is a big plus in my opinion. It's actually a Glock 47, not a 17, but you get the idea. Also too, whenever you're carrying a red dot, some holsters, they don't have clearance for the red dot. Sometimes this Kydex piece will come up too far this way and then block it, or sometimes this cut will be too high up and block it. Yes, you can kind of adjust those things yourself, but you want to make sure that your gun can accept all of those. I'm just saying all that to say this, I like holsters that can handle all the accessories that I add to my guns. Now, here's a kind of a problem, right? Let's say you have 3 or 4 guns that you like to rotate through to conceal carry with. I don't know why you do that, but let's just pretend. If that's the case, you're gonna need a bunch of different holsters. Well, you don't gotta order a ton of holsters. You can simply order one. This is called the MSP holster. I've been using it for a few years now, but essentially, they make these OWB as well as IWB. These holsters fit any gun that use one of 3 lights. Any gun that either has a Surefire X300, any gun that has the Streamlight TLR1, or any gun that uses the Mod Light PL350s, this will fit. And I have tested this on every gun, but it's all molded around the light. Let's say you're carrying a Glock 19 and you decide to sell it and get it, something that definitely won't fit in your Glock holsters. Well, if you carry with any of those weapon lights, you can get one of these and it'll work with anything. What's cool about that is because they make IWB and OWB, you could have 2 universal holsters for all of your guns, unless they're subcompact, and this won't work for it, but for most of your guns. However, this one does have one big downside. The downside to this holster is it's a little bit thicker than a holster that's actually molded for it. For example, you can see this holster, how thin it is, and then you can see this holster, how much big and open it is. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's not gonna conceal quite as well as this one would, because this one's a little flatter, but this is a great holster and I love it to death. And that's gonna bring us to secret number 3. Now, secret number 3 is gonna be about driving in the car. Some of the biggest complaints that I see from people, at least in the comment sections of some of my previous videos and comment sections of other people's videos, is comfortability and accessibility and safety while driving in the car. Now let's talk about safety, because there are some things about safety when carrying in the car that I don't think a lot of people have actually considered. Safety concern number 1. So whenever you're concealed carrying, especially if you're concealed carrying in the appendix position, some people have a problem sitting down and they find it uncomfortable. And so because it's uncomfortable for them, they will simply take their gun off when they get in the car, and they'll either stick it in a door pocket, some people stick it in the passenger seat, and that is a huge safety concern, because what if you get in a wreck? You now have a 2 to 3 pound flying object that if it hits you in the head in a wreck, it's gonna kill you. Even if the gun doesn't go off, it's just heavy enough that if it hits you in the right spot, you're done. So that's not really a great idea. And I'm guilty of this too. I have done that as well. I'm not talking down about people that do that, especially on long trips. Recently, I've discovered if I am gonna take the gun off, number 1, I put it in my center console that has a latched lid. So if I do get in an accident, at least it's contained. So now the question is, okay, if that's not really a good thing to do, to take it off and put it somewhere else in the car, should I leave it on? And that kind of depends. A few years ago, one of the followers of this channel got into a car accident while carrying in the appendix position. During the accident, the force from the seatbelt pushed this whole thing into his abdomen so hard that I think it ruptured his spleen or something else. Some organ got ruptured because this got pushed into his abdomen so hard from the force of the seatbelt. This happened because of seatbelt positioning, and this is what I mean. So when you're riding, let's just pretend this gun is on my person, and they will run their seatbelt right over the front of the gun. That's why that happened to him. All you gotta do is lift up your shirt and put the seatbelt behind the gun. So if you get in the wreck, that force from the seatbelt won't push this into your abdomen. Just food for thought for some of you guys. So because of this type of situation of a seatbelt possibly forcing a gun into your abdomen, that would eliminate belly band style holsters, because there's no way to put a seatbelt behind the gun in a belly band style holster. We're gonna do a deep dive on belly bands here in a little bit, because I got a couple of bones to pick about those, and then there's some that are actually kind of surprising me. Now let's talk about comfort. So earlier I mentioned the main reason that people take these off is because they're not comfortable. Well, how do you kind of fix that? Well, number 1 thing that you can do is choose the right belt and to change the adjustments on your clips. Even a small change in those clip adjustments will make the biggest difference. And we're gonna go deep into that when we get into the section of the video where we talk about how to make your own gun more comfortable for you. Now, the third problem with carrying in the car is accessibility. Now, this is only really a problem for people that carry strong side or in the 430 position, because if you're carrying strong side, now you got a seatbelt in the way and you're not able to access your gun. And if you're carrying 430 position, now your gun's kind of behind you and you get the seat in the way and you got to lean forward. For accessibility, appendix carry is probably the most accessible form of carrying a gun while you're driving, because it's right in front of you. And especially if you put the seatbelt behind you, you don't have anything in the way except for your shirt that you can simply lift up and draw your gun. And that brings me to secret number 4, which is how do you make your current EDC setup more comfortable? And if there are some things you need to buy, what do you need to get to make it more comfortable? So method number one is clip positioning. And not only is this gonna make the gun more comfortable, but it'll also help you conceal better. The first time that I tested out an appendix rig that has the mag carrier on it, I loved the way that it felt, but it felt like the gun was gonna fall out like this. So if this was my belt line, it felt like it was gonna fall this way. And I felt like it kind of stuck out a little bit. The best way to remedy that is to raise your clips. If you raise your clips, the gun sits lower. Let me show you, for example. So on this one, I have the clips at the lowest positioning, meaning that when the clips are at the lowest positioning, the gun rides much higher. This is how it conceals. Now, because of my body type, it conceals all right, but you can see here, look, you can already kind of see it, kind of like right there a little bit, okay? Now, when my shirt's untucked and I'm just moving around, it's fine. However, you can still see it like when I move certain ways. And that's because this gun is sitting up really high. Now, the pros to your gun sitting up really high is you're able to get a good grip on it much easier, so your accessibility goes up. The higher the gun is raised, the higher your accessibility goes. However, the lower your concealability goes. So now let's stick it into this holster, which has the clips raised, which pushes the ride height of the gun further down. So now you're gonna notice something different. When I turn, you don't see that bulge that I had earlier. The same gun, same magazine, virtually the same holster. It's just they're different colors. But this one is sitting lower. Now, you can see that the gun is sitting lower, and guess what? It's more comfortable for me this way. It sits, my navel is here, so it sits a couple inches below my navel. However, when you go to grip, sometimes your fingers can hit your belt, and it can impede accessibility a little bit. So when you go to draw and press out, it's a little bit cumbersome for some people. Now, a warning. Don't make the same mistake that I made a couple of years ago. Whenever these holsters ship out from the factory, some manufacturers will put blue Loctite on the threads of the screws for your clips, and some won't. The reason some don't is because they know that everybody's gonna have a different fitment style and everybody's gonna adjust them. So when you do put these back together, make sure you put blue Loctite on them. The reason that's important is I didn't do that on a holster a few years ago, and I carried that holster for a little over a year, and then I had a problem while I was at Home Depot. The screws backed out and fell out the bottom of my shorts. Thankfully, I was able to find all the hardware, and because I was at Home Depot, I was able to pick up a cheap little Phillips head screwdriver and put them back on in the car. That is a mistake you need to avoid when you adjust your clips. Now, this is gonna bring me back to when we were talking about how to be comfortable when appendix carrying when riding in the car. Well, number one thing that you need to do when you're carrying IWB, for regardless if it's appendix or strong side or anything, you need to buy your pants about a size or two up to make up for the thickness of this holster, because I have some pants that I've outgrown over the years, and because of the thickness of the holster, it doesn't matter what belt I have or how I got these clips positioned, I'm not able to be super comfortable when sitting. Now, the second thing you can do to make it more comfortable, and you saw it when we were looking at these up close, is to add a foam wedge to your holster. You can put these onto any Kydex holster. It doesn't matter what brand they are, and they come in a bunch of different sizes. My suggestion, if you are gonna get these, is to get the variety pack, because they have different widths, they have different lengths, and then they got some that stick out further and some that don't stick out as much. And that will also help when you're sitting in the car, because that pushes against your pubic bone. And when you go to sit down and your pants tighten against you and it pushes into your pubic bone, it doesn't hurt as much. And that's one way to make it more comfortable, not only while you're standing, but while you're sitting as well. And the next way that you can make concealed carrying much more comfortable, especially when sitting or driving in a car, is gonna bring us to secret number 5, which is choosing the right belt. Now, a belt needs to accomplish 3 things. It needs to be rigid enough to hold the gun securely, because if it's not rigid, your gun is gonna sag, unless you have your belt cranked incredibly tight, which then again, it's not gonna be comfortable because your belt's so tight. At the same time, you don't want a belt that's too rigid that it won't mold to your body. A lot of times when you get a rigid belt, they are going to be pretty stiff at first, and then you break them in over the course of a week or 2. And then they will mold to the shape of your hips and such. The second thing they need to do is they need to be inconspicuous enough. If your belt line is gonna be exposed a little bit, that they don't look like a gun belt, then they also need to be comfortable. There's not one belt out there that accomplishes all three of these to the best of their ability. And there are some that do all three of them well, and then there's some that excel at other things. And because of this, I'm currently using 3 different belts. The first belt is the Next belt. I love this belt. It's very similar to that of the Core Essentials. I've been using this one since 2022 or 21, I don't remember. And you can see after all those years, it is still very rigid. It's similar to the Core Essentials belts where it has this ratcheting system. When you get it, you cut it to your size. Just make sure not to cut it too short. I've done that and it sucks. But make sure you cut it, make sure you leave a little length. And if it's a little too long at that point, cut it again. But very similar to that of the Core Essentials. And it has this quick release button right here. And so the reason I like this belt is because the dual clip design of my holsters will fit around this buckle. I think Core Essentials has a couple out now that are like that, but in the old days, the original Core Essentials, the back side of the buckle was so wide that this barely would fit around it, and there was no movement that could occur where you could put this in different positions. And I like it because if you do have to tuck your shirt in or your belt line is exposed, it doesn't scream gun belt. The downsides to this belt are it's not as comfortable when you're sitting. But the plus side is because it has this quick release right here, when you go to sit, you can simply just squeeze that and open it up a little bit. So if you get in a car or you're sitting down, you can open it up a little bit. And then when you stand up, you can simply push it together a little bit and make it tighter. Now, the belt that I find myself wearing the most often is the Tier 1 Concealed EDSA S-Line belt. It's essentially identical to the Hunter Constantine belt. In fact, I do believe that Hunter Constantine's belt comes from Tier 1 Concealed because they both came out at the exact same time, like literally the same exact week. They're essentially the same belt, they're the same price. The biggest difference between the Tier 1 belt and the Hunter Constantine belt is literally the logo that's on this hook right here. This one says Tier 1, and then his just says HC, so it's just branding. However, aside from that, the biggest difference is Tier 1 belt has 3 loops, and then the Hunter Constantine belt has 2 loops. So the way this belt works is the front of it here is your rigid portion, and then the rest of it is stretchy and very size adjustable. And this belt is really designed for those who appendix carry. You could use this for strong side carry, but it's really meant to be for appendix. So as you can see, it's not a really good contrast with these black shorts, but the front is very rigid, the back is very stretchy. And so that allows your pants to move so that you don't have to readjust your belt when you want to sit down or drive in the car. There's no limit on which side you can move this gun as far right, far left, or in perfect center that you want. And then when you go to sit down, because the back of it is elastic, it stretches out and conforms to you. So you don't have to release it like you do on the Next belt. The downside to this belt is it's not really gray man, so to speak. Like it kind of looks funny. Like you don't typically see people that don't carry guns that have belts without a buckle in the front. And so that might be a little bit of an issue. So I have links to this guy as well as the Tier 1 Concealed belt over at the parts list. And I also have a promo code for the Tier 1 Concealed belt. That'll be over there if you want to check it out. So this is the belt that I've been using much more than any of the other belts. But there is a third belt that I like to use. So over the past couple of years, there's been a lot of companies that have come out to make clothing and all kinds of very expensive accessories so that you can conceal carry when you're wearing sweatpants, joggers, or if you're exercising. And I have found the single best solution, and it's not expensive. So this is a belt that I did not think that I was gonna like until I tried it. And that's this guy. And this is called the Comfort Concealment Belt. And it's essentially not rigid by any stretch of the imagination at all, as you can see, but you can put it underneath anything that you're wearing. So let's pretend that you're wearing sweats. I'm not gonna go put sweats on for the sake of this video, but you get the idea. Kind of push it down, or you can wear it high, similar to that of a belly band. You take your holster, and it can fit on just like this. Then you can take your sweats or whatever pants you're wearing. So I have a normal belt on, normal buckle, and you don't see any clips because it's underneath my belt. So now I'm really concealed carry. Say I had to have my shirt tucked in or whatever, you're not gonna see that gun at all. And the belt does have a little bit of give to it. So when you go to sit down or stand up, it's not as stretchy as the Tier 1 belt, but it has some give so that when you sit or stand, the belt will adjust to the extra pressure. And it comes on and off just like that. And essentially, this becomes very similar to that of a belly band, but without using a belly band. Now here's the cool thing about that belt. They're only about 45 bucks or so, and I do have a promo code for it over at the parts list if you wanna check it out. But here's the thing about this belt. I've used it. I've been doing a lot of cycling recently. So I've just been going for these 10 to 11 mile rides by myself, and I wanna carry my gun with me. And I typically carry my Glock 26 with me. I use that belt, and that belt never budged at all. Never had an issue with it. However, I did discover you can do the same thing with the Tier 1 concealed belt. You simply strap it on, put it underneath your clothes, and this one's a little bit more rigid on the front for actually holding it. And so, because of that, the only two belts I need are the next belt and the Tier 1 belt. And let's go over belly bands real quick because I got a few bones to pick about them and I want to do a little bit of a deep dive, but not too deep. First things you should understand about my opinions about belly bands. I have never actually used a belly band. So take my opinions here as a grain of salt. But when you evaluate them against the 5 things that a holster needs to do, I find that most of them fall short. And here's what I mean. So the first one up is the Bravo belt. The Bravo belt looks like this tactical like waist thing. It's not really a belt, it's just this huge band. And you can hold all kinds of cool stuff, guns, magazines, lights, etc. And it appears that you can move the belly band to the right or the left, depending on where you want your gun to be, but it looks like it's more tailored towards strong side style carry instead of appendix style. I could be wrong about that, but that's just how it looks. There's other belly bands that are similar to the Bravo belt. I'll have links at the parts list if you want to check it out, but the biggest con that I can see has to do with accessibility. Because if you look at it, because it's soft and it doesn't have a hard retention around the trigger guard, you have to have a strap to hold it in place. And because of that, now you have to clear your garment, flip the button on the strap, and then grab your gun to draw out. Personally, I'm not a big fan of that. That makes the accessibility score of that holster type to go down. The second thing that I've noticed is it doesn't seem, like I said, I've never tested them, but just from looking at them, they don't seem to accommodate red dots very effectively. And so you're kind of limited to a gun without a red dot to carry with it. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on that kind of belly band. Now, the next kind of belly band kind of solves the accessibility problem because it's a hybrid one. It's from Alien Gear Holsters. I'll have a link for it over at the parts list if you want to check it out. But it essentially is a belly band and then it has a Kydex shell on the outside. So now you have that Kydex retention. You don't need that strap to hold the gun in. But the downside is, number one, it's at an interesting angle. I don't know how good of a draw angle that is. But if you don't like that draw angle, I don't think you can move it around or change it. And then 2, if you'll notice, because they're using Kydex shells, I don't believe they have any types of adaptations for pistol lights, threaded barrels, or red dots. I could be wrong, but those are some cons that I've noticed with that one. Then the third one that has been actually really popular, I've been seeing it everywhere, is the Vanish belt. Now these are very interesting because some people have said that they can use lights and red dots with them, but it kind of depends on what gun you have and if it fits into the slot or not. The other cool thing about them is they are designed to be used for strong side, or you can move them to the front and carry them appendix. But the downsides, again, is it has the retention strap. And then number 2, I've noticed that a lot of people that are getting these aren't actually using them the way they were designed. They're essentially taking their holster and clipping it to the back side of it so that they can use their own holster with it. And that's cool, but those things are like $80. So I did some more research and I found one that I actually ordered. I don't have it yet, but it was only like 35 bucks with free shipping. I'll have a link at the parts list if you want to check it out. But this one is called the Strap Tack Belly Band from Clip and Carry. And it does exactly what people are doing with their Vanish ones, where you can essentially take any holster like this, clip it on. They have it sized so you can use appendix rigs that have the sidecar on it, or you can use a standard holster that doesn't have a sidecar on it. You can move it in any position you want, but you get to always use your holster. So the pros to these Kydex holsters is, as I mentioned earlier, and so you get the best of both worlds. I ordered one. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying it's worth checking out if you're going to get a belly band. So that brings us to our bonus secret number 6. What's the best holster for you and how do you determine that? Well, that isn't something that I can 100% do for you because I don't know you and I don't know your situation, but here's how I approach it. It really kind of depends on body type. So for example, women typically do really well with appendix carry or belly band style holsters. Because they are rather large in the chest area on average, they can conceal carry underneath them very easily because the shirt simply hangs right over. The downside to a lot of women conceal carrying is they have bigger hips. And when you have big hips, that eliminates strong side or 430 position because it pushes out, and if you wear shirts that are fitted, you're gonna print like a mofo. And a lot of women like to do appendix carry depending on their size of their belly. If their belly pokes out, they might not like it because they're just simply shaped differently. For men, I would approach it like this. Do you have a gut or do you have a muffin top? If you have a muffin top, you definitely probably don't want to carry strong side or 430 position because it really can get in the way. Because if you have, say, a little bit of a gut, you can at least put the gun underneath your gut and kind of let your belly hang over, whereas muffin tops don't typically work that way. There's really no best way to tell you what's going to work for you. All I'm going to say is this: you need to try both. I tried strong side for about 6 to 8 months when I first started carrying a gun. I used a hybrid style holster in the 430 position. And one of the biggest issues that I had with that, I was working at a bar when I used it and I had to stoop a lot. And whenever I would stoop and stand back up, my shirt would rise up above the grip of the gun, causing it not to be concealed anymore. That kind of bummed me out a little bit. The second drawback to it was if that grip was exposed and I didn't know about it, it would be very easy for someone to come up behind me and yank that out. I had no control over the gun. And so when I went to appendix carry, it eliminated all those problems and all of the control of the gun was right in front of me. If you're really on the fence about it, I'd say go out and get yourself a good appendix rig style holster. Doesn't have to be tier 1. These are just the ones I like. That's flexible, that has the mag carrier. That way you can try it with both the mag carrier as well as without. Try that. If you don't like it, then go out and get yourself one of those hybrid style holsters that can be strong side or 430 position, because those can be very comfortable given that you wear the right type of clothes and your body type supports allowing your shirt to stay over them and not ride up, similar to the situation I talked about earlier. But I am curious, what are your thoughts on this? And let me know how you approach choosing a new holster. I hope this video helps you out. And if you want to know more details about what my EDC setup is with like mag extensions and everything and red dots and all that, go check out this video right up here and I'll go into a ton of detail about that. But until next time, guys, I love you and you guys stay sexy.